sharing our thoughts and what we have heard recently from our beloved master. So last week, so before we begin today's sharing, we're always going to look at what we talked about last week. So last week we talked about this. Well, we didn't talk about this, but it was Master Jie and also Master Jie's sharing on her journey. And you can see Master Jie happily sharing, and also her very wealth of notes that she took and the entire script of what she was going to say. And you can see in the background that Master Huang is very happy, smiling brightly, because to be able to see our brothers sharing, it's something that is very happy and heartwarming to know that the stories and to share the stories. And this is what Master wants us to do, is that we each other will bear witness to the journey that we have taken. You and I will witness each other. And when you mention a certain part of your history, of your journey, and we are there to witness, and we are there to affirm that these things indeed happen, and the stories will echo and stay in our memories, and that's how the history will go on, because it stay within each one of our memories. And so that's what we heard last week. But to go into a little bit deeper, the story was about her journey from before and eventually coming into the lives in the abode. And there are certain things that I wanted to point out. And there are more, obviously there are more, but there are only certain parts that I think we all each took a little bit from the story. And I'm sure even Master Jie or other people that knew of the story before, we all walked away a little bit richer, a little bit more, knowing more than before. And I think that's very important. And that's how I view our review session. Some of these things that we talked about, you already know. But by reviewing it, or by looking at it, by listening to it, sometimes we have a different perspective. Sometimes a little bit more insight is gained just because we talk about it more. And that's what Master wants us to do, is to unforget or remember the past memories. And that is because every time we go back to it, there are more insight that we get. There are more wisdom that we can earn from each step. So last week, Master Jie shared some stories, and some of the interesting stories include that Master mentioned that Jie washed vegetables that would be enough for 1,000 people to eat. And that was a feat that was not accomplished. And in fact, the amount of vegetables that she washed in a day actually is actually more than the amount of vegetables she would wash for the entire year before coming back to the abode. And something like this, you hear, and it brings smiles to your face, because if you have been to the abode, you know that for a single day, especially when there are a lot of visitors and a lot of people returning to the abode, you know that the amount that even whether you're talking about washing dishes or preparing meals, that you know that it's a very arduous task that everybody has to do. So Master Jie's sharing brought a lot of smiles to our faces. For all of those of you that have returned and helped in the abode, you would know this. And so the more important thing is that that we're coming back to the abode. And if you ask yourself that, would you be able to do this before coming back, you'll probably say, yes, I can do it, but I don't think I would do it. Like to wash the vegetables for 1,000 people in a day, it's not hard. It's something that you just can do. But are you going to do it? Are you going to be able to have that good affinity with 1,000 people by preparing their food? No, you're not going to do it, right? But coming back to the abode, when it becomes part of your life, that's something that we can do, and that's something that we are certainly not just know that we can do, but we have done it. And that was the difference. A lot of times when Master talks about a particular stories in the sutra or in the Buddhist history, that it's just a story. whether it's real or not, we don't know, right? Historically, we might not be able to confirm that it actually did exist, the particular story. But now that we understand the principle, now that we understand the teachings, are we able to do it? So, there are these teachings about doing good deeds every day. Yes, we all know of it, but can we do it? So this is the same idea, in that we know that we can, if we want to, do the dishes and do the vegetables for all these people and serve them. But we didn't have any opportunity to do it. So now we can. So now we walk the walk as well. And last week, we also talked about how coming back to the abode, it gives us the inspiration to inspire that potential out of us. Before, we might not know that we could do it, and now we can. So it's all these different hidden meanings behind these stories that I found to be very valuable, that I think to be the most important out of these stories are these insights. And these insights are what's going to help you and carry you when you encounter certain problems. So Master Jie, in her encounter with Master Cheng, so she said, I told Master, everything is going well. My job is cleaning veggies. I'm preparing it for you. And that's what brought joy to Master Jie. But Master replied, you are preparing for everyone. And I think this is the perspective, the insight that we get from this is that, are we doing all the good deeds for, who are we doing the good deeds for? Are we doing this for Master Cheng? Are we doing this for the people of the abode? Are we doing this only for the people that come in here to eat? Who are we doing this for? And why are we doing this? And it's a perspective that I think Master always wants us to have, is to have our heart, to open our heart, to be as broad as possible, to encompass all of the universe in our heart, in our mind. So that it's not exactly like, you open your heart and then you put all the world into it. No, but rather it's that you think about the world. You always keep it in your mind. We're going to talk about that later, but that's what it means. So when you're preparing, yes, this food is only going to be eaten by one person, right? The same bowl of rice, it could be eaten by, this table of people or this group of people. But when you're preparing it, you're not just thinking about this group of people, but you're thinking about the entire sentient beings. You're thinking about the entire world. You're talking about all these things that's in your mind all the time, even when you're only specifically doing this for a small group of people. That's what it means to have all these sentient beings in our mind. Okay, so these are some of the things that we were talking about, and obviously there was the other part where there was about the backache, the back pain, and it was lifting thousands of kgs per day, and all of that. But the important thing is it inspires the impossible. That you would not be able to understand that for me to lift all these bags and grains and powder every day, but it was also done. And it also further shows that we have all these potential, but we weren't exposed. We weren't given the opportunity. We were not exposed to these affinities so that we can explore and also grow our potentials. And this is what the abode is training us to do. And that's going to go into today's QA as well. So we're going to get into that as well. So today, we're going to talk about what? So as Master went on the trip around Taiwan, the journey to see all the disciples in Taiwan, across Taiwan, she took 31 days and she made 33 different stops. And obviously there were stops of different lengths. She stayed in Taipei the longest, and she stayed in various different places. And in some places there were she only stayed for briefly. But the whole point was, within the stops, in between the stops, the most important were her teachings. And I, throughout the course, I was there the entire trip, and I jot down certain things that I make it into small parts, segments of small teachings that can be shared in different lengths. And I wanted to share this with you. By no means is this the complete teaching on the entire 31 days. But as Master was going through the 31 days, there were changes in the people that are coming and in the scenery, in the environment, in the topic. But I string them together and try to find the coherence in between the teachings. So the first part that I want to share is Master's teaching on life. And as you know, that pretty much everything qualifies as a teachings on life, about what we're supposed to treat our lives as and how we're supposed to fully function and explore our lives. So let's move on to the first part. So this is what Master says. And I think there is something that I want to take away from this. And all these things that, and I wish when we hear the sharings every week, I wish that we could all walk away with at least one or two insights that we didn't have before. And that's something that we can walk away and say, oh, I didn't know that before, or I didn't think of it before, and now I do. And keep it to yourself, and also sharing with other people. This is what I've heard today, and this is what I've learned today. And then sharing with other people. That's how we're able to become better. It's not just sitting there and listening with other people sharing, but rather it's from other people sharing that you gain the insight, and you keep it. You keep it by sharing to other people. And that's, the more you share, the more you keep it in your mind, the more it's in your memory, the more you bear witness to that insight, the more it becomes yours, and eventually will become something that you can apply. So the very first teaching that I shared today, so with every passing second of every day, this is what Master says. Master says, with every passing second of every day, my life is slowly slipping away. And this is very true. She had talked about that this being her last journey, and of course, none of us wished for that to be true. We continue to plan for the next one, but Master says that she's taking her opportunity to say goodbye to everybody. So, yeah, I understand. It's very hard. It's very hard for all of us to understand or even to comprehend what that means. We know the word, the meaning, but we don't know what it's going to mean to us. So she said, with every passing second of every day, my life is slowly slipping away. Time has taken away my youth, my middle age, and now almost my old age. Such is the rule of nature. So we have to work hard to live up to the true preciousness of our lives. So this is sort of the translation that I did for this particular teaching, and the actual teaching is below in Chinese. Why did I particularly take this part out? Because I think there is a certain sad poetry. It's very poetic in that the part about taking away my youth, my middle age, and now almost my old age. And we understand that as soon as that time takes away the old age, what comes next? So Master is using this time slipping away in a poetic form to say that with every second, because she sees herself changing in the picture. And this is the rule of nature, and we're not going to be able to change that. You can delay that, but it's inevitable. And that's something that we have to work against. You're not against it happening. You just have to make it so that when it happens, you're ready. So that's what Master says. We have to live up to the true preciousness of our lives, the true values of our lives, and true preciousness of our lives. And I think that's what she strives to do. So let's move on to the next page. On a different day, she says, with every passing second, time slowly changes our appearances. This makes sense. We become older. We grow taller. We become older, and changes in our appearance. This is what Master says when she sees the pictures of herself and of the disciples of the past. So now we are different from before. So now we look different from before. The only thing that remains are our memories. And even that requires all of us to collaborate to form a complete memory. And what Master is trying to say is that our memory. So it's the same thing. She's drawing a comparison about life and memory. Imagine that every passing second, the time is changing our appearance. The time is slowly in our lives are slowly slipping away. And this is all very true. So is our memory. Our memory are also slipping away. The more, all the memory that you have while you're a child, with every growing day, with all the new things happening, pushing out the old things. So the old memories are becoming more obscure, more uncertain. It's becoming it changes. So Master is telling us that, but it can remain the same. That's the difference between memory and life. That memories, while it's slipping every second, you can repair, you can change it, you can remember more truthfully what happened. And that's what we needed to do. So unforgetting or remembering the memory, that's the key, is that while we cannot become younger by repairing our damaged body, we can repair the slipping memory that has slipped and changed by collaborating, by affirming each other, by bearing witness to other people's memory, because we were there too. And when you talked about the memory that was shared, then other people can bear witness to it and say, this is how I remembered it, and collaborate collectively in this memory so that it doesn't have to slip away with time. It will remain as is. So that's why we have to go against the time. The time will make memory slip away, but we can make it so it doesn't. And that's very different from the rules of nature. It doesn't go with that. You don't just become aged and then eventually face death. The memory will stay for as long as we're willing to collaborate and bear witness to the history. So Master now talks about herself, and she knows in the appearance, she knows that what we all wanted for her to do, which is to rest and to be completely healthy. So she said, with the normal perspective, I know that I have aged and I need to rest more. But I refuse to rest and I refuse to take breaks. As long as I can still breathe, I will not give up even a second of my time. As long as there are people willing to listen, I will be the dragon. But when I'm alone, I admit I will be transformed into a sick bug. This is a very huge contrast that she is willing to shed light on the very personal level. She knows in her heart that, contrary to what we all think, that she didn't want to. We know she didn't want to. But a lot of people thought that she didn't know. Like, oh, shouldn't Master rest? She knows. She was talking to the group of doctors. She knows that she has aged. She knows that her body is decaying. She knows that in the normal belief that it is required of her to rest more. But that is not the point. Instead of looking to rest more, so there is a longer journey, she wants to make sure that while she still can, that every moment is precious. And that's called living up to the most preciousness, the most preciousness of life. Live up to the preciousness of life. And so she refused to take breaks, because breaks means breaking from life. And that's not what she wants. So as long as you can still breathe, she will not give up even a second of her time. And the contrast between flying dragon and a sick bug is something that we probably heard before. But the moment that there's anyone willing to listen, if there is a group of people that is willing to listen and follow, then she will continue to do so until the last moment when there's no one, when she's completely alone. So this is her perspective about life: to work hard, to not give up, to not rest, because as long as she still can, she will continue. So what does it mean to be older? She says, we have to work harder as we get older, because now we are racing against time. You work 1 hour, you earn 1 hour. You speak in one session, you earn one session. You inspire and motivate someone, you earn that good affinity. So that's what she meant. The more that she does, the more that we do right now, the more we earn right now. There is nothing you earn if you don't work. And if you work, you're going to earn it. And the more you work, the more you earn. And that's the whole point. She refused to rest because she knows right now it makes even more precious because racing against time. And this is her idea. This is her value. The value of life comes from how much you work, how much you do, so that you can earn, you can learn, you can motivate, you can inspire others. That's the preciousness of her life. So now, obviously, when there's life, there's going to be illness and pain. This is her teaching on her dealings with the illnesses and pain. So the rules of nature, which is truthfully life and death, this journey is sure to be encountered by everyone. So continuing and following from the previous teachings, we all strive to work until the last breath. And we all hope that we will have good health, remain healthy until the last moment of our lives. And that's what the best hope is. So that's the rules of nature. Life and death is going to come. And this is the journey that's going to be encountered by everyone regarding who you are, where you are, what race you are, how much money you have. It's all going to be the same. We wish that we have good health until the last moment. But even if we're ill or in pain, I tell myself every day, I am born into samsara, this world of tolerance or forbearance. As I face sentient beings, if I do not feel illness and pain, I will not understand the illness and pain of the sentient beings. Thus, as the sentient beings fall ill, bodhisattvas become ill as well. This is a demonstration of how compassionate that she is. That she is equating her own pain, her own illness, because it's a requirement. Because if we are born into this world, and if we do not face any illness, if we do not have any illness or pain, how would you understand the illness and pain of others? You can't. And so she's saying that this is part of journey. It's not about the illness and pain. It's about my ability to feel the illness and pain of others. Because if I feel this way, others must feel the same. If others feel this way, I must need to know how that feels. And therefore, I understand the sentient beings and I will motivate myself to correct that, to make it better, to make it so that when people get old or ill or in pain, they can feel better because she felt it. That's empathy. Feel how you feel because she understands. So the pain or illness is not her own. She takes this as a lesson to be learned in the journey. Can we do the same? So Master's teaching on compassion. This is something that amazes me. So she talks about the cyclone in Africa very frequently this time. And this particular sharing or teaching is really, really astonishing. So she says, to the survivors of the cyclone in Africa, they are miserable. Their lives are very changed and they're miserable, they're suffering. But she says, I am even more miserable than they are because their misery comes from the suffering of an individual or family, while my misery, my pain originates from the collective suffering of the entire land. And that is so true. That is how compassion is different. Master's compassion is so much greater than ours. Because when we see these people, we see 100 people suffering, we might only remember 5 or 2 of the stories. And then our heart goes out to them. And it might even stay for maybe a day or 2 and then it's gone. But for the people that are there, survivors, their suffering is every day. They're miserable. Their lives are hard every day. But that's because their lives are hard. Their family encounters very much difficulty. But even that misery is limited to that individual or the family or the friends or the neighborhood. But Master's misery, Master's pain and suffering comes from all the collective suffering of its entire countries and land, of the people that were there affected by the cycle. And I think that's some level of compassion that I probably would only be able to understand in terms of words, that I'm not there yet. And that's what I mentioned in the beginning, where you open your heart and mind to encompass the entire world and universe, not just to keep that world and say, that's mine, but rather in saying that you always keep it in your mind. So she says, every meal as I lift the bowl to eat, I think of how blessed I am to hold this bowl of food, and wonder if they can ever hold this bowl of food. So my disciples, you should always keep this thought in your head, in your mind. So it's something that she's teaching us to always keep it. And this is something that I think only further embody the unison of wisdom and compassion. So wisdom is not about to be able to say the things you know, but it's to be able to recognize the things that you don't. And so she says, I always say, I do not understand medicine. I do not understand nursing. I do not know medical technologies, but I very much know one thing, and that's the suffering of illness. So this is one sentence that really, really embodies why and how she's going to treat her life. Her attitude in life is, I'm going to respect the professionals who do the medicine and nursing and the technologies, but I'm going to focus on one thing, and that's the suffering of illness. I know the suffering of illness that I go through. I know that for all of the disciples, the type of sufferings that they have. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to leave the rest to the professionals. And that's something that, because she identifies with everybody, that the pain is not for her own, but the pain is so that she can understand the sentient beings. That's a next level of feeling, of understanding. So that's the sharing for today. And I wanted to get into the first three questions of the QA. And something that I want everybody, if you can, all the sentences, all the sharings and teachings and masters that I just shared, I wish that we can at least walk away today with maybe one or two in our mind, and maybe more. The more you have, the more you earn, right? So something in our mind to keep it. What was the one sentence that I thought were really striking, and something that I will keep it dear to my mind, dear to my heart? Something, the insight that was something that was amiss before, that I didn't know before, and now I know. So that's something that I wish everybody can do. So before I finish here, I wanted to share, I wanted to go through the questions and answers. So this is a very long question, and it's been here for a while. And it's a question about this volunteer's encounter with an individual who I think has certain mental illness and mental blockage about thinking. And this is happening with a lot of people. So as the individual goes through her encounter, the encounter with this other person, it's talked about that says that facing this challenge, in the very last sentence, I felt in Tzu Chi, we learn to love and care for others, and yet facing this challenge, I have not have the wisdom to solve this case, only run away from it. And I think this is the part where I wanted to go back to the sentence where Master says, I do not know medical technologies. I do not understand medicine. I do not understand nursing, but I know one thing. So this is the wisdom, is understanding what you don't know and what you do know. And the compassion comes from, now that you know this, what do you do about it? You now know about pain and illness, but what do you do about it? Can you motivate and inspire your own compassion to do something about it? And that's the key, right? So I would like to share with this individual that you are not running away from it, that life is not something that you solve. You are not here to solve life. We're not here to solve life. Master is not teaching us to solve life. Master is teaching us to observe life as is. and then to see how you observe your life, and you observe my life, and you observe other people's lives, and you observe Master's lives, you're going to see a huge difference. You see people in pain. Do you feel the pain? You see you in pain. Do others feel your pain? Do Master feel your pain? And what do you do? Can you relate your pain to others? This is not about solving 1 + 1. This is about understanding what 1 + 1 means. The answer is 2. But sometimes you understand now, right? That you and I, when we put together, it's 1 + 1 = 2. But if we're not working together, then 1 + 1 might not be 2. But if we're working together in unison, maybe 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So all of a sudden, they are not just an equation for you to solve. They are not just there waiting for an answer. 1 + 1 = ? It becomes something that you understand, that you can elaborate because your understanding in life has increased, has bettered, has gained the insight. And I think this story is the same thing. This is the story not about that your inability to help them, but this is the story where now you observe. Today you're this. What could you do better? What can you learn better? Perhaps this is a story that you will share with others and become something that helps you, that help other people to understand life. It's not to be solved. There are always going to be things that you cannot solve. But what is your attitude? What do you do about it? Are you going to be better than yesterday in treating this problem than you are today? That's what Master is motivating us to do. Observing, striving, trying to be better, so that tomorrow you will be better equipped to help others in this situation. So if you look at the next question, understand that it is important to eliminate habitual tendencies, but it sometimes is very, very difficult. And because there are certain people, matters, and objects that are very difficult to overcome and cause a lot of hardship, mental torture. See, this is the thing. You are not thinking about 1 + 1 = ? And you keep on trying to solve this question. Life is not something to be solved, but rather we're here observing this equation as it unfolds itself. And as it unfolds itself, we see the grace of it. And we see that we have the power to change. And we have the power to appreciate, understand what 1 + 1 means. To understand that this equation sometimes, and Master told us that the most precious part about life isn't this part, is the equation, is the process itself. And that's the most valuable part. What did you get out of this? So it's not about a mental torture because you can't find the answer. Don't torture yourself over the fact that we can't find the answer. The answer will come to you eventually when you get there, because we are improving every day. But if you stuck yourself in this loop of trying to find the answer, that's when the mental torture comes. And you try to find, why isn't it this? Why can't I find the answer? But rather, step backwards and say, what do I see from this? And how can I get better? And am I getting better? If not, I should. And how can I get better? And that's what Master comes in, and she guides us to become better. In this journey, observing your journey, my journey, her journey, everyone's journey, can we get better so then the future journey becomes easier and more fruitful, more insightful? Okay, so lastly, coming back to question 20. So there are 2 parts that this individual, thanks to your question, wish to seek further. So it's do not be the last bearer of the teaching, and do not treat Dharma as gift and present to others. I think the actual word is do not treat the Dharma as personal favors. Okay, personal favors. And let me very quickly, because the time I know is over already, but do not be the last bearer. And this is something that the whole idea about keeping that memory fresh. As long as the memory is there, as long as it lives in our mind, it's still alive. But to be the last bearer means that you have this memory, but you do not share. You do not collaborate with others. You do not work with others and say, hey, I have this. And then other people might say, oh, I also do. But Don't wait until that you're the last person, because when you're the last person, no one can collaborate with you and say, I was there too, right? So that's why when they collect all the disciples to form the sutra, they have everybody and, collaborating with each other. We have to do this now, not waiting until that you are the last individual to have that teaching. Do not be the last bearer means if you are the last one, don't be, meaning share. Share with others. Let others know about this. And maybe they have other different insight and say, well, I think that day, what happened was Master said this before what you heard. Well, even better, the history becomes more complete. So as I mentioned before, the time will slip. Our lives is slipping away in time. So is our memory. But our lives cannot be regained, but the memories can. Okay, so do not be the last bearer. And do not treat the Dharma as a personal favor. Dharma is not a personal favor. It can be a gift, just like Master is gifting us with the understanding of the direction. The Dharma itself is not a personal favor. It's not something that you can do and give as a favor to others. Oh, I'm good with you, therefore I share with you. Rather, it's something that you see fits. It's something that others should know. It's something that we should all know. But if it's too early, if it's not ready yet, don't just give it to others like, oh yeah, it's a personal favor because I know you, I like you, and I want to share with you this. Rather than that, it should be about that you need this and using our judgment and wisdom. What is the best Dharma? That's why there's so many things we can share, but we always share about something that we can use, something that is adaptable to us and we can keep to us and use it. Not as a personal favor, not as like you do me a favor, so I'm going to return you a favor by sharing with you the story. No, Dharma doesn't work like that. You share the story because it's meaningful, because it's worthwhile, because it's something that's going to help you and us and all of us, and because we do not want to be the last bearer of the teaching. That's why we share, not because you're nice to me and you brought some food to me, so I'm going to share some Dharma with you. No. So that's my sharing for today. Sorry, once again, I went a bit over time, but I answered 3 questions, and most importantly, to share with you that life is not something to be solved. It's not something that you can say it equals to 2. That's not life. Life is always changing, and life is the same thing that happens each day. But if you have a different perspective, you're going to have different insight every day. That's what Master teaches us, to have different insight and different perspective. To learn to observe life and to observe yourself. Are you growing out of this? Are you becoming better? Are you enhancing yourself, improving yourself along the way? That's the key. We're not here to solve life. We're here to take this journey, to appreciate every moment in this journey, and to appreciate the people that are there with us in this journey. Thank you very much. Thank you. So that's my sharing for today. Thank you.
感恩 Brother Joe for such wonderful insights and sharing. Today we have sharing from Singapore. Sister Jing Xing. Sister Jane, please take over.感恩.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Cheng and I'm from Singapore. And very感恩 for this opportunity to be able to share with everyone about my experience at the Board of Director meeting, which was held in May. The Board of Director meeting is 董事会 in Chinese. So I think Sister Jane and Sister Tzu Chi invited me to share. I think because there was this 大爱 news about our 董事会, and we were singing to 上人, one of the songs that our brothers and sisters have composed. Yeah, and I think there was this scene that I was like very happy singing the song. So they screenshot that photo and sent me like, oh, you want to share about your 董事会 experience with us? Yeah, but actually I think I have a lot of reluctance about sharing, because although it is really a very, very good opportunity, but I think I came back from 董事会 with a heavy heart, and I can share with you later why is that so. So just a bit of background. I joined the Tzu Chi medical department as a staff about a year ago, and so being a new 同仁 throughout the past year, there's been a lot of learning and trying to learn more about what it means to 直智合一. That means both being a job and also taking it as part of your life's mission, which is what Master actually hopes for Tongren to be. This May, there was this supposed to be a yearly 董事会 whereby the volunteers from Singapore, the staff, will go back to report to Master about what's going on with the different missions. And my head of department nominated me to go back to present to Shangren. Yeah, so actually in my mind, I was thinking, I don't think I'm very suitable to go back because I'm just new to the medical mission and I'm still learning. But and we are supposed to update Master about what's going on and our future direction, or which I feel that I haven't really participated in it. So I'm still new to it. But my HOD actually mentioned that, oh, you know, it's a good chance for you to be closer to Master. And it's a very rare opportunity to be able to present to Master, which I agree. Yeah, so I think I took it as a I think my attitude wasn't right lah, frankly speaking. I thought, okay, so yeah, it's a good opportunity. I just do what I can, and you guys prepare the PowerPoint. I'll just say it on behalf of you. Yeah, so that was like kind of my attitude when I went back. So so before the 董事会, I went to airport to stay for a day earlier, and after lunch or breakfast, when Master was walking out, then one of the volunteers was introducing us. Oh, these are the volunteers from Singapore, and they are going to present during the board of director meeting. Yeah, and guess what Master said? So she looked at us and she said, "How to pay? So prepare well." And at that point in time, I was really very guilty. I felt very guilty that, you know, actually, I just took it as a, oh, let's come and meet Master kind of opportunity, rather than, you know, really being serious about the whole presentation. And we are like taking up Master's time to listen to our sharing. And here I am not being very serious about it lah. Yeah, so I think this is a very important learning for myself, that even though I might think that I'm new or it's not something that I should be sharing, but no matter what, since you've been given the opportunity, it is really our responsibility to do it well. And before I came, when we were doing the trial run in Singapore, CEO actually asked me to 发愿, to make a vow in front of Master after my sharing. Yeah, so every time you hear this 发愿 thing, right, you get a bit stressed. Okay, so I really don't know how the whole board of directors meeting would be. So I find that it's very weird that I just like suddenly 发愿, right? Yeah, but it got me thinking lah, because CEO actually asked me a few times, reminded me lah. Yeah, so actually in my mind, yeah, it helped in the sense of I really think through and ask myself, what kind of vow do I want to say to Master? What is my vow that I want to make at this point in time? Yeah. However, I think when I went and after my presentation and you know, I know that it's time for me to 发愿, right? I think somehow it didn't come out as what I wanted it to be. And I just said something like, oh, you know, I would like to bring more Tima volunteers back to become Master's disciples, which is kind of part of my yuan, but it's not the entire thing. But I think the whole atmosphere and the whole, it's more like my own 障碍啦, own barrier about, it's so awkward to suddenly say my own yuan after I have presented. Yeah, so then again, yeah, it's again another missed opportunity. Yeah, that is how rare is it to be able to say your vow in front of Master and have her listen to your own vow, right? Yeah, so I felt quite ashamed of myself after this 董事会, and even more so that we got the chance to interact with some of the 清修士 and the 敬助女 who are like the lay disciples who are following the everyday routine and practice, like Brother Joe. Yeah, so I'm very inspired by them. I've been to Abbott a few times, but this is one of the few occasions, one of the only occasion that I really got to chit chat with them. Yeah, so one of them is actually from Singapore, and I know her personally, so we just had like some heart-to-heart talk kind of thing. And she was sharing with me like how difficult or how tough it is to be in the Jingshe, like what Brother Joe shared, to really do so many things for everybody, and it's very physically challenging for a lady. Yeah, so every day the hands will be very painful and muscle aches and pains and all. Yeah, which made me think that, you know, reflect on my own practice, being also a lay disciple of Master, that how easy, right, my practice is, you know, being in Singapore. And also this Jing Zhu actually was wearing a mask, yeah, when we went in to speak to Master. So I asked her, hey, why do you have to wear a mask? And then she replied that, oh, one of the Shijie was coughing, so I had to protect myself because I cannot afford to fall sick. Yeah, which is again another 震撼, you know, to me. Like in Singapore, if you fall sick, just get an MC, rest, and then get better and get going again. But there she is, being so appreciative and seizing every moment to do her best, that she told herself that she cannot even afford to have the time to fall sick. Yeah, so it gave me a bit more insight about that kind of dedication and selflessness that the Abbot practitioners have. And also another Qing Xiu Shi that Master also mentioned during Dong Shi Hui, that on her way back from an overseas meeting, which is quite far away, she had diarrhea, a very severe diarrhea vomiting, and she had to be admitted to Hualien hospital. So Master praised her in front of us and said that, you know, she knows how to look after herself. And secondly, she completed her mission before she sought medical help. Yeah, so we went to the hospital to visit this Qing Xiu Shi, and she was like, oh, I didn't know whether I could make it back to Taiwan. I was like vomiting and so dehydrated and so drained. Yeah, which you know, let me understand the severity of her condition at that time. And being a medical person, I felt like it was very risky. Yeah, but such is the dedication and the amount of vow that these volunteers, these practitioners have in walking the Bodhisattva path, which so after this experience, I felt very 惭愧, very ashamed. And then I feel that there's still a lot more that we need to do. We need to 精进 over here in Singapore, and for myself. And then alluding to the recent Xun Fa Xiang, where Master spoke about Zeng Shan Man a few times, is an overbearing arrogance. Yeah, so I feel that through this experience, I actually gained some insight into my own overbearing arrogance, because it doesn't have to be manifested in a very overbearing and very obvious way. But sometimes you might think that, oh, you know, in Singapore, not many people Xun Fa Xiang, so I'm actually not bad already, like quite hardworking already. And also not many people actually dare to become a staff of Tzu Chi, to take on this everyday kind of thing. So then again, I'm like not bad, doing more than others. But and also a lot of 师兄姐, you know, being very kind and all, they would encourage you, praise you and stuff. Yeah, so Master said 赞美当警惕, yeah, which is taking other people's praise as like a word of caution, because it is so easy, our human nature, to become so full of ourselves and so arrogant without us even realizing it. And my journey back to the directors meeting actually helped me gain a better insight about such to me subtle kind of thoughts in my mind, and spurred me to become more humble and more hardworking in the practice. Yeah, so I do encourage everybody to go back to airport when you have the chance. We might think that you know, it's we are taking on a lot of resources and causing a lot of trouble to the shifu and all. But the Jing Zhu also taught me that you know, masters, they are here to have this good affinity, form this good affinity with us, and dedicating themselves to help us and serve us. So we don't need to be worried like that we can't repay them back, because after all, at the end of the day, we do want to form this good affinity with them. And it's like how Buddha actually formed good affinities with all the disciples, and told himself that in the future, I will be here to to help you with your path as well. So going back, every single little thing, I mean, I could only share a very few things today, but every single thing that you see, even the process of volunteering in the factory and everything, really helps in our bodhisattva path. Yeah, the Tzu Chi way. So yeah, and of course, master's teachings during the Dongshi Hui was very helpful for myself. In particular, she did mention that for the youngsters like us, don't think that you are young. You know, you are already heading towards middle age, and it's our responsibility to bring in more younger volunteers. And then a master shared about how she started off Tzu Chi at the age of around 30, and life was hard, but they had to sew the baby shoes, and sewing 3 shoes can only self-sustain them, but they push themselves to sew the 4th pair of shoes so that they can help others, which is something that is also something that I will, it will become a guidance for me, especially being new to this medical department, and everyone to help to bring up the medical mission in Tzu Chi. Yeah, so really, I think so far I've only been sewing the 3 pairs of shoes and being self-sufficient, but what Master hopes is that we can do more for the world and sew the 4th pair to help more people. Yeah, and this is yeah, so we got to work on it. Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'll pass the mic over to 新闻师姐，感恩。
Hi everyone. Today was very impromptu, and I really appreciate that I have this opportunity to share why I decided to actually come for Xun Fa Xiang. So it wasn't of a very complicated reason, but I was back to Sihe camp twice. So the first time after I was back, I decided to come, but there was just too many reasons to actually not come yet. No excuses, but just no motivation. And the second time, which was just a month ago, I decided to come Xun Fa Xiang again. So when I was back here, and then there was this Sigu that actually texted me and told me that whether I wanted to come for the Xun Fa Xiang today, tomorrow, and then so she texted me a few times and asked a few times, and then but there's no it's a little bit I was still considering, and then so Sigu actually prompted me a few times. So and then she added me into a Xun Fa Xiang group, and then now that is a bit of a Sigu pressure. So no, she didn't force me, but so I was just telling myself that so this time there was no more excuse, and then so until from then I have been coming since the day I decided to come. So I just want to share that this is actually not like some very major kind of decision to make or something, but I just believe that I'm a person who must do what I actually promised that I would do. Actually, I just share that I will want to come, but I didn't vow or anything like that, but I just thought that if I said I would want to do, I would have to find time and try to do it. So and I feel that I wouldn't get over myself if I didn't do what I actually promised to do. So but of course I know that this is for my own good, my own wisdom, 我自己的慧命. So I decided to come. And of course, I would want to share is after I come and listen to all the 上人的法, 熏法香, and there's one thing that I felt that why this is actually all very worthwhile, because there's so much to learn. And while I was accompanying, now that I'm accompanying Tzu Chi, is actually one of the major reasons that I keep reminding myself that I need to have more wisdom and to share to the teachings. And I don't want to, like yesterday's 上人熏法香, she mentioned that about the rice husk. So I don't want to be the empty rice husk that will be blown away once the wind blows. So I want to fill myself. I don't want to be the empty husk. So yeah, and like what I heard Chen Hao Xuezang mention as well just now, the more you listen to other people's insight, the more stories you have, and then the more you are able to share, and the more you share, the more you gain. And because it sits in your mind after you share it, so every time you share, it actually adds on to your memory. Yeah. And so, and lastly, I just want to share a 镜子 aphorism that I also just picked up randomly yesterday. It's life becomes meaningful when we shoulder responsibilities. Avoiding responsibilities makes our life empty. 感恩.
Okay, hello everyone. Yoping here. Hello, Sister Xing and online. And thank you all so much for the sharing. I think it was really happy to always see people taking that transforming life to take the first step, just like what Xingwen has shared just now, taking the first step to beginning joining Chun Fa Xiang. No matter what the initial intention, but actually, I always feel that that first step is always very important, because it is that first step that opens up that innumerable affinities afterwards. And so I think we all are in our life, and I think that was really a blessing, that whether the first step to begin knowing about Tzu Chi, or the first step to wanting to learn Dharma, the first step to begin Chun Fa Xiang, even if we don't understand Master Tolkien, and so on and so forth. And so all these first steps, and that is why Huang 9 年, don't forget that initial aspiration. Don't forget the initial aspiration. I think that was always to remember the very first step it takes, because it was that first step that helped us to actually walk into these innumerable affinities afterwards, and opening up all these paths, 开示 opening up into all these things. And also, like what Sister Xing has shared, that continuation, sustaining of our exploration on and on and on, actually comes from, I really thank Sister Xing for sharing that transformation of her mindset, going back to Dong Shihui, and then from just sharing the PPT for everyone, on behalf of everyone, to actually making a vow in front of Master. I always feel that when I'm in front of Master, it's like there's nowhere I can hide. My heart is like open completely to Master. It's impossible to hide our hearts in front of Master. And so it's like, I know that if I present my PowerPoint without coming out from my heart, without that vow, basically, it's very obvious. It's super obvious to master that I'm just presenting word by word the PowerPoint. As compared to this presentation was from me, and it was because I was there. For example, I was there already in Mozambique and coming back, sharing what I saw and my feelings, my that feeling, that whole emotion and whole coming out from the heart thing. It was very different. So, of course, today, hearing from Brother Joe, that it really bring me up yet to another level about like how Master really feels about Africa, that her suffering is even more than people there. Their misery, their suffering is about an individual, it's about a family, but for Master is for the whole land. Every time she takes up a bowl, every time probably when she wears a clothes, every time when she sits on a chair, when she lies on the bed, I'm sure she always feels for those people that doesn't have any of these. And every beat of time of her life, she always feels for those that I need. And that's what I haven't done yet. And that's the part where my vow is still so small that I need to expand to learn from Master more and more and more. So I think throughout this whole process, there's really so much to learn, and sharing this process with everyone help us to complete our memory and to also learn from each other how to look at a better goal like our Master, and then learn and then walk forward. So thank you so much for sharing today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gan.
Okay, Gan everybody, and please take over Sister Xiaoqing, and we're thankful, grateful every moment. Thanks.
Gan has been really another very wonderful Saturday. I'm sure a lot of great insights from Brother Joe. Our Singapore families, two sisters, Xing Wen and Xing Qing sisters. Brother Yo Ping, always very wonderful with his Dharma. Truly a very wonderful day. Gan everyone for joining. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your presence. Hopes that each of us could sustain the Dharma joy and take in another piece of Hualien love to our life. Let us please make 3 bows to the Buddha and Dharma Master as we depart to apply these teachings in our daily life. Let us pay our respects to our teachers of life, universal truth. First bow, second bow, and third bow. And a bow to our beloved Sifu who could join us today at Hualien.